Daf is Daf Kufir Gimel. We are learning the laws about Shliach Bezin. Bezin summons people to a Torah, Hasmanas. And interesting that we find it here in Bava Kama, not in Sanhedrin. So we're up to 7 lines from the top of Daf Kufir Gimel Amar Aleph. Amar Rava. Rava says, so the last thing we learned was that anybody can be entrusted to go ahead and carry out the shlichus of summoning, giving a subpoena, and summoning someone to a din Torah. Amar Rava says, Rava, Hai mandik ksiva le psicha. Anybody that they wrote this psicha, remember we learned before, psicha is the opening letter with a subpoena, and then there's followed up by, if you don't follow the rule, we know we'll go at drachta, we go into your properties, seize properties. So if anyone who wrote a psicha, al delay osi ledina, for not showing up, presenting yourself at din Torah, ad osi ledina le mekarinele, till he fronts up in front of a bezin, we are not going to rip up this particular shtar psicha. Shtar psicha, we put him in cherim, that those 90 days till we seize the property to put him in cherim. We're not going to rip up that document until he actually fronts up in front of a bezin. Now, even if he says, I'm coming, it's not good enough. You already proved to us that we don't trust you. What about the guys that are like tzayis? Tzayis is somebody that the bezin paskin so-and-so, this is what you have to do, and he refuses to comply. He's added tzayis le mekarinele. Until he, and they write the same thing, they put him in a chedim until he actually listens. So again, it's not good enough. He says, I will listen. You have to actually carry out the psak, according to this view. However, the Gemara concludes, that's not the halacha when it comes to tzayis dinner. The law is not so. Kivan the amar tzayis not karinule. When it comes to the loy tzayis dinner, the moment he says, I will do it, we'll rip it up. He didn't pay straight away. Maybe because he has no money, not because he doesn't want to, not because he have cares or something, just doesn't have the money. But on the other hand, if he doesn't front up to the bezin, it doesn't cost anything. That means he has no respect for the bezin. Then we don't trust him until he actually fronts up. Talking about subpoenas, we fix the time, Sheni, Bechamishi, Sheni, Monday, then Thursday, then Monday. Zimna, we give him 3 occasions to come. If the last Monday doesn't show up, Tuesday we write this psicha. Ravasi Ikla Beit of Kana. Ravasi came to the courthouse of Kana. He saw a woman was subpoenaed to court Bepanya in the morning, Ubetzafran already in Bepanya in the afternoon, Ubetzafran already the following morning, Kosel Psichi wrote away this document, Psicha. Where the 3 Hasmanas? Amalei, he said to him, don't you believe we give 3 subpoenas? Amalei Hani, immediately when do we give 3 subpoenas? Only when sorry, Gabra the honest, the less of the muscle. The only time that we give 3 times is if the guy is, let's say, a strong arm person or he's not around town. So therefore, we got to give a guy a few more chances. I will eat a woman. It doesn't make it a man or woman, but Kivan the Eastern also, she's right here in town. What excuse does she have to not show up the first time? Well, I asked him whether a person's not in town. Maybe he couldn't get back in time or whatever. So we give him a few opportunities. But if you're in town and you have a subpoena, you have to come straight away or respond straight away. And if you don't come, even after once, they can give you the shtar psich. He works somewhere else. He's working. He lives here. They have his home address.
He doesn't have email.
Yeah, you leave a letter. You can give a shtar. Yeah, but if he's not here, we say that the wife would have. So they talk. So there's a. If he lives here, he just went away for a few days, so we assume that someone would contact him. Excuse me. Yeah, so think about it further. You don't call someone to the title not during the month of Nisan. Not during the month of Tishrei. Not because it's Yom Tovim. Interesting. It's because that's the time of harvest, the time of sowing, and that's your whole mind is wrapped around that. Not Yom Tov, not Erev Yom Tov, not Erev Shabbos. If to subpoena someone on this, and we're going to have a detail in here, or we aim a Tisha subpoena someone and say, look, give a date in the Cheshvan, the boss at the Kavinia, we'll do that. And even if you're short term, you'll forget. In the next week or 2, you'll remember. Say someone, look, Friday, let's get together on Monday. People are so wrapped around Shabbos that in the short term, you might forget. Like Kavinia, we don't do it. My time, and by the time he remembers, it'll be too late already. We do not invite somebody, those people who go every single Shabbos to hear a drasha. You don't tell someone on Shabbos, we're going to go see you on Monday. Otherwise, you would. Those who either Rashi said Benirigla means that a month before Yom Tov, Shloshim Kermachag, they would sit and talk about Yom Tov. But in other places, when we had this idea with Egel Meher and Megillah, in other places, it's actually on Yom Tov itself. They would get together. Moshe Rabbeinu made a takana on Yom Tov. We should talk about Yichus Yom Tov. Sorry. Exactly. Here, you let them learn. What's going to happen is people will be scared to attend because who knows? There's suddenly all these people here will come present you with subpoenas and this and so forth. Nobody will come. Yeah, but also the comment of Nachman, they came to Nachman and they would try to subpoena people. Then he would say to them, "What do you call it?" So people will come to Rabbi Nachman, said Nachman had the best. Give us a subpoena so we can call summon this person during the day of the Talib because everybody's in town. So he said to them, you think the reason why I made it to make it easy for you to go to subpoenas? This is for learning. But today, there are people who have to come into town, whatever it is, a month before to do the shopping. So they wait for the day that everyone gets together and they'll claim, we're here to learn, leave us alone. So we already know who's there, for the real reason and who's there just to avoid getting subpoenas. Then the Mishnah said, but if the father left behind for the children, but two ways of learning Pshat. Rebbe learned Pshat that if the item that he left is something that everybody can lay back, that's the stolen cow, that's the stolen donkey, whatever, that's a stolen thing. Let's say property, everybody knows it's someone else's property, that's not a covered of the father. Now, Shenke, Rabbi Isha learned, the Rabbi said, I'm going to learn like Rabbi Isha, and I know he'll greet me in Gan Eden because he loves me. That Rabbi Isha learned Pshat is no. Rabbi Isha said the Pshat is, if the father left behind assets that can pay up his loans, his debts, then you have to pay if the father stole something and gave it over to his children because the lien was already on these assets while the father was still alive. So now we'll focus on what Rebbe said, that something is there is not covered of the person who died. So, doesn't mean property. Even a cow, when he used to plow, or a chamoy, a donkey, and he uses it to carry his belongings. They covered it. Everyone knows about this, so everybody can constantly be reminded that the father's a god. What about mita, a bed, and he leans on it, or in other words, something that's in the house, not everybody sees. But sometimes people come to the house for a guest, whatever. Be smart, and you can figure out on your own to expand. If people can see, it's not covered. Mishnah. Ain't partying like Metavas we're going to automatically assume that tax collectors are going to have him. So they would have their own private bank account, little private, money box, and then they had a money box where they collect all the taxes. And it used to be the custom. The king said, "At this area, I want to get $1,000 out of," and he would sell the rights to this person for $800. So the king would get his money up front, and then this guy's problem to go raise the money. It's these guys who cannot be trusted. These muhsin. Because they would add to it, they would do all that kind of stuff. So therefore, you cannot take change from the money box because it's stolen money. So ain't pointing if you want to get change for a larger bill. For a smaller bill, don't change it. Not from the box of the tax collector. The same as Gabay's doctor, they do the same thing. Also, you cannot really trust them. They know the you don't take stock from them because it's probably stolen money. I will know but if he takes it from his own box. If he takes it from his own box, or let's say he has some other box outside of his house, but it's not the box that he uses for fund, collecting the taxes, then you can take it because that's lavdafka, that's stolen money. Second one, Tom, we learned, I will nice dinner nice place a shot. Yeah, let's say, but he's a ganef. At the end of the day, he's a ganef. He's stealing his, yeah. Oh, he loses himself thinking that he has a right. Yeah, I will know. The reason why there's such anti-Semitism historically, the Eden couldn't own businesses, they couldn't own property. The only professions that they were in, they were money lenders and they were tax collectors. The two most hated people. That's what it was, and therefore that raised the ire of the fellow citizens. Let's say he owes money taxes, and the only way, but he only has a large coin and he needs change, then he's allowed to get that change because the mitzvah lahat some money. You're allowed to save your money. What do you mean tax collectors? Didn't Shmuel say and we already explored how this is a massive inyan we had in the Dorim, and we had all the different opinions, whether it's Mahateda, whether it's the Rabbana. This line, is what differentiates Yiddishkeit from all these other religions. That we have to follow the laws of the land where it doesn't contravene Yiddishkeit directly. And Rabbeinu Yenin says that Dina Machusa Dina is because the king has the right to expel you from the land. And Rabbeinu Yenin knows Mahatayra. Sorry, at least Rabbeinu Yenin Babasa knows Mahatayra. But there's the Ran says Nedorim. The whole idea is the king can banish you from the land, and therefore, if you want to live there, you have to pay taxes. So therefore, he concludes, B'nai Yisrael, Malki Yisrael, there's no such thing as Dina Machusa Dina Yisrael because they have no right to banish. Every year has a nachla. Goisa, she says the same thing over here. He limits it further. When only taxes are things to do with the land itself. If the government makes a law that you can't go through a red light, okay, the safety you shouldn't go through a red light. But the Lord has no standing because din machusin is only to do with because he owns the land. You want to walk on my land, you have to pay import duty or export duty, or you have to pay a head tax so I can give you transport to move around in my land. Only those kind of things. So anything which directly maybe red light does have to do with that because you're going to hurt other people living in my land. But anything which is outside of that, no. So what's going on there? Why they're going to the muchish ain't the kids? We're talking about a tax collector that has no that does not have. If the king said you can only raise $1,000, that's one thing. The king didn't give him a limit. He can go and force people to pay him beyond what's reasonable, and therefore that's a gun. He's not talking about the king gave him the right. He just stood up. He's a strong man, and he has his hooligans with him, and he collects money like a mob. He can imagine a lot of other people in the same machlekes, but in a different case. A person not like we're klayim. I feel like I'll be a sir, but God even on top of take clothes. That a person is not allowed to wear klayim, even on top of clothes, to avoid paying taxes. Now, as far as klayim is concerned, okay, we'll see in a minute. So you're not allowed to wear klayim, even on top of thin clothes, if the point is to avoid taxes. The Tanya we learned is another mission. We learned also Rabbi Kiva said you're allowed to wear these clothes to avoid paying taxes. So Bishlam meaning climb. Okay, I understand by climb. Is there a problem of climb? Not. The first opinion said you're not allowed to wear it because it's climb. The second Rabbi Kiva said you're allowed to wear. There's no problem of climb. Why not? The master of the he holds unintentional. Rabbi Kiva holds unintentional. It's a figuration, but wearing tough clothes doesn't necessarily add anything to it. So there's a Chabaz Yoy and others. Interesting Hakira. Is the Easter of climb to have Hana from climb? Or is the Easter of climb to wear climb, but when is it also to wear climb if it brings you Hana? Because you're having Hana right here. The Hana is you don't have to pay tax. What do you mean you're not getting Hana? You're getting Hana. But it's not but it's not if the Easter is wearing climb. But when is us to wear climb? When it gives you hana, then you can understand why over here, what do you call it? It's not considered hana because you're not getting any hana from the wearing here at all. It's a side thing. But if you learn the east of climb is you now have hana from climb, you are having hana from climb. So you can say that's good for the argument of Shimon Rabbi Akiva. Okay, Ella, but how can you avoid taxes? Make sure how can you do that? But you can't evade taxes. Same same machlekes, but in that case, other than the third Mishnah, the same machlekes, but on a different Mishnah. We're looking more at
Sorry, how does wearing kalayim have anything to do with paying taxes?
Because the law was that just like you come to Australia, you're not allowed to bring in more than $800 worth of imported goods that you bought overseas, but the clothes that you're wearing, they don't look at. So if you're wearing, they don't tax you on what do you call it, on clothes that you wear. So you're putting on 10 layers of garments or 8 layers of garments to avoid paying taxes. That's how you benefit. Mm-hmm. It just happens to be that's climb. It just happens to be that way. Mm-hmm. The next mission of Darm. If somebody is a known murderer and you're frightened, you're intimidated, or the Charami, those who go and steal from you, plunder, or the muhsin or tax collectors, and you say, look, guys, don't take any shishal truma. This is truma, or shushal base melech. It belongs to the king. You can't take this. It's not mine. Afa pishayin is a lie. You may neder. Afa pishayin melech. You're allowed to do that, and just have in mind, according to the restraining in the Dharma, you just have in mind that you only meant for an hour. You say that all the payers in the world should be also to me if it's not true. You just say it should be also for a day, for an hour, for a minute. Other Hashem hold, you have to actually verbalize it and say very quietly. Move your lips and say only for a minute. But you're allowed to do that because you're scared for your life. But we included tax collectors. You tell the tax collector that this is not mine. What do you mean? How can you avoid taxes? Comes along Rav Ashi, and Rav Ashi says, no, he says, the Muchas Kanani. We're talking about a goyish, a tax collector, and that's why you're allowed to avoid the taxes. What do you mean? The Tanya we learned, Yisrael the Kanani honest, Shabol Adin. If a Yid and a strong arm goy come to a din Torah, you're allowed to. Im atu yochel is akeb in Israel zakeo. If the Yid will win in a Jewish court, you say, look, the Yid is right, he wins. That's how it did. If in Yiddish law the guy would win, but between Kanani, but in Goyish law, the Zakayu that the Yid would win, then what do you want? That's the law of the land. Liblav, let's say neither one, the Yid loses. Boy, you know about Kifin, you can make all kinds of subterfuge and tricks and everything else to make sure the Yid wins. Kiva says, "Ain't boy no about keeping Hashem." Kiva says, "My problem is Chil Hashem or Kiddush Hashem." Interesting, he uses Kiddush Hashem rather than Chil Hashem. No, but it's a Kiddush in the positive way. It's a Kiddush Hashem if the guy wins a court case in the Yiddish court. Had it not been for the Kiddush Hashem, you also say allowed to. You're very conniving and your mom is stealing from a guy. So it seems you're allowed to steal from a guy. That's why when the tax collector is a Yid, he owns the taxes and you're allowed to. But if the tax collector is a guy, then you're allowed to. That's what it seems from here. And when do we say Machuzin is only by Yid? Are you telling me that Kiva holds there's no Kiddush Hashem you're allowed to? The Gezer Kanani Mishari, you're allowed to steal from a guy. Interesting, Rashi Sanhedrin Daf Zayin on the test, I can remember, says clearly that even those who hold that Gezer Kanani is us, it's only Midrabban. Others say it's Mahatayr, as we'll see right here. Partially talking about is Mahatayr, as you see here. How can you tell me if people hold you allowed to steal from a guy? But Tanya, we learned Amar Rav Shimon Davazeh Darash Abakiva. This matter of Abakiva Dashan Kishim Ba Mizafidin Minayin. How do you know the Gezer Kanani shows? I know you're not stealing from a guy, and he brings up a pasuk in the Torah. Tamalaymer, it says that an Eved Ivri who sold to a guy. You have an Indian to redeem him. It doesn't say steal him. You have to redeem him. Don't go ahead and pull him out and help him escape. In other words, you're not allowed to steal from a guy. And nor should you bring him to the Torah and the Bezin somehow and others should make up some kind of a law to tell him you have to release this Yid. Because it's a what do you call it? It's sorry, you're not allowed to steal from a guy. Yochol, I would have thought Yaglum Olav. I would have thought that on the other hand, and the flip this how Rashi, the flip side. So the guy could charge whatever crazy price he wants, because Gula, whatever he wants. He can cheat you. Taisa finds it hard. Why would you even think that just because we're not allowed to cheat a guy's allowed to cheat a Yid? I mean, why would you think that? So Taisa Yachal means he said, I want $100. Okay. But I'll give like a whole wad of bills. Really, it's only $92, but so much he'll just look at it. So I'm cheating him a little bit, but I'm not, arguing, whatever, forcing him to give it me. You have to reckon with him. You him, be accurate, whatever you made up. So we see clearly, give a hold, I steal from a guy. What are you telling me? I said, because Kiddush Hashem, about taxes. I'm gonna have Yisrael like cash. Habaknani, Habaknani, allowed to steal. And he was talking about a ger toshiv. In this possible, we're talking about a Yiddish Yid, a ger toshiv. A ger toshiv, somebody, some say, the Rambam says a ger toshiv, somebody who accepts the 7 mitzvahs. Rashi, a ger toshiv is somebody who accepts 1 mitzvah. He will not worship idols. That's it. And today, we don't have the concept of ger toshiv. But in this very possible, it talks about this possible you shouldn't, take from them by force. It's talking about a ger toshiv and a guy, both included. So it says in the pasuk over there. Where is it? The pasuk. It says here. It says loylach el leger el leger. Remember, it says lager. It says lager. It says that what happens, if a ger vit toishivimach. It says ger and a toishivimach. Somebody lives there, and somebody who was more than good. They get toishiv. Lager, but later get said they get toishiv. But then get shnema. It says get toishiv. Mishpachas ger ze evig chavim. So in other words, if we work our way down, this is the punishment that if you don't do this, and if you go get sold from one person, it gets worse and worse and worse. So you have a ger for a get tzedek, then a ger teishiv, and mishpachas ger ze evig chavim agoy kishu oimer oile ekenim kavichavim, and eventually you'll end up with somebody who worships Avodah Zarah. So, talking about somebody who doesn't keep Shemitahs, this is the punishment. This is how it spirals totally out of control. So we see that in that very pasuk it alludes to every kind of gate, and yet it says that you shouldn't force and pull them out, stop paying. So all still from any good. Element of like kasha. Can big loy and can behave cause alvasa. There's a big difference between stealing or not paying a debt. So there, in a way, I guess, taking directly from the king, not paying taxes, is like stealing. A person who paid the taxes to the king and now bought the rights. So now that is called hafkas alavasa. So I have a debt to pay him. Taxes have already been paid. Now it's a debt to him. That's hafkas alavasa. Because the money came to me and I have a debt to you. Not paying a debt is not the same thing as stealing. So Rashi in the beginning of Sanhedrin, it says that stealing is only if you take it outright from one person to another. Not if you're not paying your debts. That's not called stealing. That's called avoiding paying your loans. Hafkas alavasa. Interesting, in different tax systems, which I always find interesting, because America and Australia. In America, every child you have, they give you, let's say you earn $50,000 a year. For every child, just picking random numbers, is $1,000. So you know what? If you have 3 children, you're not earning 50,000. You're earning 47,000. It's your money. Don't pay tax on that. So the American attitude is, whatever you earn is yours, and we want some of that. You have to pay as a tax. But in Australia, if you have kids, they don't take off 50,000. They'll give you money. In other words, whatever you earn belongs to the government. And they will decide how much we'll give back to you. So interesting to say whether by Americans have cost halvasa. Here, it might not be a kavasa. To evade taxes here is mamash gzela, because everything belongs to the government. At least the philosophy behind that. Anyways, Abaye, Eved Ivri have cost halvasa, who Abaye says an Eved Ivri also. If so, why are you telling me you're not allowed to force the guy to release the Eved? An Eved Ivri, how's an Eved Ivri work? An Eved Ivri works is that he works, you give him $1,000 because he's worked for 6 years, let's say, right? You give him $1,000, and now the Eved Ivri pays it off. How's it pay it off? By working for you. So it's a loan. So why can't we take the Eved Ivri out? You said that you're allowed to avoid paying loans as long as you're not stealing. By Eved Ivri because of what he. So Rav Tamei, Rav is consistent with you. The Amar Rav Eved Ivri Gufa Kanoi. Rav says that an Eved Ivri belongs to his masters. It's not just to his service, but his Gufa is Kanoi. Very difficult Gemara to understand. Because the Gemara there talks about a Yid owning an Eved Ivri, not a Goy owning an Eved Ivri. Who said a Goy can own the Eved Ivri? Not only that, we learned that a Goy doesn't own a Goy. He only has the servitude, but not the ownership of the person. How in the world is it possible that a Goy does not own a Goy, but he owns a Yid? Very difficult to understand. Others talk about by Mitzrayim then. How did the Yid leave Mitzrayim? The Yidden were avodim to them. That means the Gufay was connected to Mitzrayim. Some say that's how it explains the Eden sung to Mem Tashar Tuma, because the Guf belonged to Mitzrayim, wasn't just their servitude, if you follow Rav Shita. Others say that so the Eden were never free then, we're still avodim. So others say, but that's why. But you can force. Pari was forced. It says that why did they should make this whole or think that Pari shouldn't, was forced to let them go in order to release them from their avdus. Others say just the way around. Pari and all the people were avodim to Yosef. The Eden were avodim to avodim. When it says that I want you to be my avodim, not avodim to avodim. When it says that Mitzrayim is called a base avodim, not because the Eden were slaves. The Mitzrayim were all slaves because they all were owned by Yosef. And the Eden really were the owners of Mitzrayim because they're all descendants of Yosef. So here you have the circular thing here. The Eden were avodim to Mitzrayim, and the Mitzrayim were avodim to the Eden. So that a very strange relationship. Anyhow, Amar Bibi Bagidel Amar Rav Shimon Chasida Gezer Knani also still from a goy, but Abeidosay Muteres. But if you find something there, you're allowed to keep it. Still that while you're in control, that Eden are running the country, but not when you're not in control of the country. You're allowed to keep their objects. The Amar Bava Kama Daf says. I'll keep their Avedis. Never says the only to another Yid, you have to return a lost object. You You like maybe you don't have to give back the aveda to a guy. Maybe you're still lying on the ground. You don't have to go and pick it up and find the guy. You have to go search for the guy. But once you have it, maybe you have to give it to the guy as well. It says in the pasuk there. When you found it, the asli yadim ashur came in your hand, and still aved as a chicha, you have no mitzvah, unless it's a kiddush Hashem, as we'll say. Tani b'chol yorayim, but moksha chil Hashem. But if there's a chil Hashem, I feel aved does it asur. Interesting. Rabbi Akiva stressed the kiddush Hashem, and Rabbi Yoy stresses the chil Hashem if you don't return it. He doesn't say, but what happens if the kiddush Hashem that you return it? He doesn't say that. Yeah, interesting. How much more Shmuel? To Usay Mutedes, if a guy made a mistake on his own volition, you don't have to tell him he made a mistake. He bought from him a golden pot, the mar deposit. The guy thought it was copper, so he charged him a lot less than it was gold. It was actually turned to be real gold. It was the dirt on top of it. You washed it off, you realized it was gold. So number one, it's not his problem. Number two is that he was supposed to give him four coins. By mistake, he gave him 3, and the guy accepted it, and he didn't bother saying to her, hey, rectifying it. Because it was the guy's error. The guy's error, you don't have no chia. Obviously, there'll be a kiddush Hashem if you do where it is. Even though I had an experience, I was in a gas station in America. I was traveling from in New Jersey somewhere, and the guy gave me a change. I realized he gave me an extra $20. So I gave it back to him, and he started cursing those Jews. I'm thinking to myself, that's why maybe it doesn't say here kiddush Hashem. Not always is it a kiddush Hashem. In fact, it works against me, which is very odd, but that's what happened. He bought 100 barrels, and the guy gave him 120. It's not his inyan to say anything. And also, what do you call it? Same thing happened. He gave him less. The guy said, Chazi, I want you to Allah Kasamichna. Rashi has 2 pshatim, like who said this to who. The one pshat is simple. I'm not going to the guy. I'm trusting you. I'm not counting. You count. So therefore, he sort of took the totally responsibility off himself, and he said, "It's your problem. You go figure it out." The second generation is a little bit hard to understand. The guy said to Rav, "I'm trusting you," and Rashi says, "Zushamaiti." So why is that good? That could be a real chil Hashem. The guy said, "I'm trusting you," and it turned out to be a mistake. I mean, that can really be a chil Hashem. If the Yid says, "I'm not sure what's going on," he says, "Look, I'm trusting you." If the guy made a mistake, he can't blame the Yid for it. I'm not sure what Shat and Rashi did. Anyhow. Rabina Zov and Dikla who Kusi, Council the Gemara says Kusi. Definitely was a goy, but the censor changed it to a Kusi. That's why you always see Kusi. Rabina Zov and Dikla who Kusi, he and a guy together, partnership, bought a palm tree to chop it up. He said to his gabbai, couldn't go, but I see me go and chop down where each of the tiles have the branches. I want you to go and do the bottom part of the tree because the branches there are much thicker than the top part of the tree. The kusi minyani, all we made up was you take half and I'll take half. We didn't make up which one, so let's cut So there's no cheating here. I'm just being very tactical. Rav Narashev, because the Buch was traveling in Chaza, he saw sheep in the goof the Pardisa. He saw branches of the vine tree in this orchard. The totally by Ketufini, we saw a whole bunch of clusters of grapes. Amal Shmai says, by Zil Chazi, go see. If it's a guy's, I say, bring me a cluster of grapes. It is thrown in the lice. If it's a guy, don't give it to me. Sounded like he's stealing it. The owner was sitting there in the orchard. Obviously, they didn't notice him. Amalei the Kusi shot you out. For God, you're allowed to steal. Amalei said to him, Kusi shakel demei. You misunderstood me. If it's a guy, I want to take it because I want to pay for it. I don't want anything for free. So in the matanas yichi, not taking gifts is a good thing. I want to pay for it. So if it's a guy, I know you'll take my money. I'll be Yisrael shakel dummy. But a yid sees me, they won't want to take my money, and I don't want any favors. And the Rishonim say that he's not lying here or he's being smart, cute. That's exactly what his intention was from the outset. Gufa, Amar Shmuel Sadina Machosadina. Amar says, Rabbi, Teda, I'll prove it to you. What's the proof that Dina Machosadina? The Kotli Dikli, the government goes ahead, they chop down trees, the Gashra Gishri from private people's homes. They go ahead and they build all of these bridges, Va'avrin and Alayu, and they cross over, and we all cross over the bridge. Isn't it stolen property? Is a raya that the government has a right to take, like to make highways and go through people's private properties and force them to sell, and it's a valid bridge. Says the Gemara, Who said, maybe because people just gave up, abandoned hope of ever recovering it. It's Yeush. Now remember, Yeush, we need Yeush, according to most, we need Yeush and Shini Rishus. If it's not Yuchosadina, Yeush is worthless. Why is it worthless? Because it's not. Remember, I told you there's a whole big chakira. The Machlekes Abaye is as follows: Is Rishus Haram belongs to nobody, it belongs to everybody. If you hold it belongs to nobody, then there's no Shini Rishus. The guy, the owner of the tree of the wood, let's say, was Mayayish of ever getting it back, but where's the Shini Rishus? So how can we cross over the bridge? So Rabbi Differ says, Dina the Machus, Dina Machus Dina. You have to say. But Abaye says no. Abaye says that Rishus Ram belongs to everybody. So maybe the people in Mayayish and Shini Rishus, because now every single person owns it before nobody owned it, and that's why you're allowed to cross the bridge. That doesn't prove the idea of Dina Machus Dina. Maybe. As the Gemara says, so he said back. By asked, well, of the Kedama Malka, even if you want to they're not following the king's rule because they're too lazy to go to everybody's property, take one tree. They go to one guy who has a lot of trees and they take it all from one person. The king said, go ahead and everybody property take a tree. They went to one orchard and they cut down all the trees. Now, interesting Gemara here. Most Rishonim gives it here is Avda the Malka, which is a thing we quote all the time. Eved Melech. The Gemara here says Shlucha Augisa, Shlucha the Malka. I've always wondered why the Rebbe doesn't go to this, that a Shliach of a Melech is a Melech. Not just Eved Melech. But anyway, Shlucha the Malka. The king sent this person to cut down the trees. He now has all the powers of a king vested in him. The Loit Tarach, just like the king himself wouldn't go through the hassles. The Inu Avshin of Shayu. So what happens? He goes to one property, and then this person now has the right to go to every person. Hey, pay me for the one tree you could have taken from you, and that's how you get your money back. It's your problem. I said, you caused the loss. He should have gone and collected from all the trees. Or Mishkul done taking money. Robert says, if somebody happens to be has a few partners, they all went home, and you're still standing out there in the farm, and then suddenly the tax collector comes. He's collecting. There's the four partners there, so each one should pay a quarter. But you're the only one there, so he takes from your share. Part of Mansa the Malki pays the taxes. He pays the whole taxes, but he can then go back to his partner and say, "Hey, really, it's all four. You have to each one of you have to reimburse me your share." The Hanim should for this person's a partner. Abarisa, but he was a sharecropper. Adisusa to come up. He sharecropper had no right to pay the taxes. He has no rights in the land, so it's his own loss. The same thing, the government has a right to go to one person and say, collect all the taxes from him and say, now you go to the rest and collect and get reimbursed. So they take the Baal Arab taxes to the land, or Karga, the High Shasa, or a head tax, but for this year. The last year, the king already, at the end of the year, they have to straighten out the budget. So he already got paid for it. Now you just took over. The king is Michael. So now it's time you. Now it's Avkos Alvase. It's a different to pay. I don't know. You have no right to. You have to pay my taxes, but you can't ask me to pay on behalf of somebody else. You want from them, you go to them. You have no right to collect from me, for the whole city. Those people. Maybe we'll stop over here. We'll stop over here and continue tomorrow night, 9:30.